At 70, welcome to Comments on Helen, Tavern on the Green, New York City, March 1st, 1986. Bert and Jane Imke present an aperitif, a before-dinner treat. We invite you each to sit back with us and relax before this very special meal is served. Where does one begin the story of Helen England, whose beauty and charm were apparent at an early age, whose flair for fashion was evident before she mastered the two-wheeler, and whose intellectual curiosity and academic achievement eventually brought her to Wellesley? Began in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, where she was born February 10, 1916, to Albert and Ida England. From her mother, she inherited beauty and a love of the good life. From her father, she learned the value of $1. Albert himself was the product of a solid, respectable household with a fondness for lace. He owed much to the industry and thrift of his mercantile ancestors. Among them, researchers have found no military heroes of the American Revolution, nor members of the landed gentry. Helen's forebears on both her father and her mother's side were mostly prudent and practical folk. They always looked before they leaped, except when they fell in love. After which, of course, came children. Helen's early world was full of them. There were cousins and brothers. Here's young Louis Cornfell, tormentor of goldfish. Others of Helen's kin found more constructive pastimes. Brother Albert and cousin Simon volunteered at an early age to battle Pittsfield's fires. Later, Albert turned to scouting and learned to make self-portraits by snapping the camera shutter with his big toe. Photography fascinated Brother John, too, but unlike Simon, he couldn't afford a camera. Dick, the baby of the family, never found his niche until he was discovered by Mad Magazine and renamed Alfred E. Newman. The years skipped by and the England children were suddenly teenagers. Soon the brothers began to show a strong interest in girls, especially the kind of girls willing to show a little leg to hitch a ride. Albert developed another bad habit, one that didn't suit a former Boy Scout and future medical doctor. Cousins weren't immune to vice either. Simon, for instance, became fond of drink, much to the dismay of Aunt Ida. And Helen. Well, romance had entered her life in the form of a Yaley from New Orleans. Wedding bells followed, and followed, and followed, and followed. Dick, in fact, thought for a while that he had married two brides. Ida and Albert were proud of their kids. The boys smiled constantly and always wore tuxedos. Helen always wore white organdy and pearls everywhere. The children, of course, simply followed the example of their parents, shown here waiting patiently at the dentist's office. Soon the four England children began producing children of their own. Sally and me in New Orleans, followed by little Justin. In no time at all, John and Pat had 4. They cheated by resorting to twins. Albert and Priscilla were content with 3, and so were Dick and Lois. Times were tough for Dick, however, shown here taking a break from his snow shoveling job for the neighborhood Safeway. Lois helped make ends meet by modeling at a local department store where she also did manicures and light cleaning. Others in the England Cornfell clan were more fortunate. Felice and Hubert Gordon, for example, bought a 700-acre deer park to entertain their young daughter, Jennifer. Robert and Celia Cornfell, living in more confined quarters, had to settle for wildlife on the wallpaper for son Robin, who learned to chirp before he could say mama. Louis and Ethel's son Nick became a registered Republican before he was toilet trained. His constant companion for this cornfield boy was a stuffed elephant named Coolidge. Their other son, Hardy, had no special fondness for animals, but was deeply attached to a bowl of oatmeal that he took with him everywhere. Psychologists assured his parents that this was normal, but just barely.
But back to the heroine of our story. Here's Helen with Justin Sr. and Jaggy in Vancouver. They had planned a vacation in Mexico, but Justin made a wrong turn at Phoenix. Meanwhile, daughter Jane was completing a course in bust enlargement, the only A+ she ever earned at Newman School. It paid off when she met Bert Emke, many years her junior, at one of the grade school graduations she frequented, cruising for young talent. They wed as soon as Bert started shaving. The union proved fruitful, and even sooner than they had expected. Firstborn, Aaron, initially contemplated a career as a weather vane. Later, he showed a strong interest in sculpture, music, and other fine arts. His brother Devin's dream of becoming one of Santa's elves was frustrated by the child labor laws and by his rabbi, after which he began acting strangely. Though Jane, no stranger to strangeness, pretended not to notice. With Aaron's help, Jane pursued a short and unsuccessful career in outdoor advertising before turning to dentistry. Today, she pulls money instead of teeth for worthy causes. 2 boys, I'm pleased to report, have matured into normal, productive young men. Meanwhile, Helen's son Justin rejected his father's life of prayer and fasting. Young Jaggy grew from boyhood and adolescence to become an adult mugger and car thief. But he was redeemed by his lovely wife, Pan, a wide receiver for the Washington Redskins. Under her guidance, Justin became a licensed midwife and hardware salesman. Pan herself earned a Ph.D. in motherhood and backpacking. All the while, Helen aged gracefully, as did her mother, Aida. Her brother Dick, as usual, wasn't so lucky. Fired by Safeway, he took a job in park maintenance. He and Lois also smuggled illegal aliens to supplement his meager salary. The Cornfeld cousins were more successful. John, for instance, bought the south of France for $12 an acre before it became fashionable.
Felice and Hugh Gordon found themselves on Easy Street when Jennifer's cat signed a $2 million contract to do a Tender Vittles commercial.
The Blau clan was prospering too. Peter, while searching for the treasure of Sierra Madre, invented granola. Naturally, he shared his enormous wealth with Andrew and Kelly, who promptly bought new formal wear. But money isn't everything, unless it's exceptionally well invested. For Helen, there's also tennis, and good friends one has known and loved for years, from Wellesley, early married life, traveled, new homes, new husband, and of course family members, children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, stepson, grandnieces, grandnephews, cousins, grandcousins, and of course Aida. Despite all these blessings, some days can be downright wearying. But all's well that ends well. That's life's bottom line. We hope each of you has savored this aperitif. Thank you for being with us tonight and for being an important part of Helen's life. Now, on with the main course. Bon appetit!